What if the most important moments in church history were hiding in plain sight? Today, we're looking at 9 specific events that took place on or around June 18th. Events that changed everything from social justice to global diplomacy. Stick around to see which one shocked us the most.
On June 18, 1864, the Vatican issued a decree formally condemning the abuses of animal magnetism and spiritualism, labeling them as superstitious and fraudulent. During the mid-19th century, the rise of spiritualism and mediumship, often involving seances and communication with the dead, was viewed by Pope Pius IX and Roman theologians as a diabolical attempt to undermine the Church's authority. This decree was part of a larger, often obscure effort by the Vatican to investigate and categorize mystical phenomena. Specifically, records indicate that the Archbishop of Rennes was commissioned by the Pope to conduct a confidential investigation into such experiences. The decree emphasized that while scientific research was legitimate, the practice of summoning spirits or using magnetism to preach on religion was strictly forbidden. This event highlights the Church's 19th century efforts to maintain clear boundaries between legitimate theology and what it categorized as occult or esoteric threats, a stance that shaped the Church's relationship with modern secular movements.
In mid-June 1964, the St. Augustine Civil Rights Campaign, led by Martin Luther King Jr. and the SCLC, reached a peak of volatility. On June 18, 1964, the situation was so dire that the SCLC explicitly challenged the moral standing of local Catholic leadership, specifically Archbishop Joseph Hurley. Activists, including William Sloane Coffin, publicly urged Archbishop Hurley to resign from a local civic commission, arguing it was immoral for him to celebrate the city's 400th anniversary while ignoring the racial violence and segregation in the present. This event is a critical study in the tensions between the American civil rights movement and the Catholic Church. It marked a rare moment where civil rights leaders pressured a high-ranking Catholic prelate to take a more aggressive stance against systemic injustice, signaling a shift in how the Church was expected to engage with the social issues of the day.
While the Cristero War officially began with the enactment of anti-clerical laws in 1926, the mid-June period of that year was the critical flashpoint where the Church and the Mexican state broke all diplomatic ties. By mid-June, following the aggressive enforcement of Article 24, which prohibited public worship, the Episcopal Committee, under the guidance of Pope Pius XI, made the radical decision to cease all religious acts. The escalation occurring around June 18th involved the closure of temples and the withdrawal of priests, effectively plunging the country into a state of silent Catholicism. This protest ignited the rural population, leading to the formation of the Liga Nacional Defensora de la Libertad Religiosa, or LTLR. The events of this period defined the 20th century struggle for religious freedom in Mexico, pitting the revolutionary government against a mobilized laity, fighting under the cry, "Viva Cristo Rey!"
Though John Wesley was a foundational figure in Methodism, his deep engagement with church history and the study of Revelation intersected with mid-century apocalyptic predictions tied to June 18th. Johann Albrecht Bengel, a theologian admired by Wesley for his dedication to scriptural text, predicted the millennium would begin on June 18, 1836. While Wesley himself did not adopt these specific date-setting views, his explanatory notes upon the New Testament heavily influenced how Protestant groups interpreted the Roman papacy as the beast of Revelation. This period of intense theological study represents the broader historical friction between the Catholic Church and Protestant reformers, who frequently used the Book of Revelation to frame their historical grievances against the Vatican.
During the First World War, the Roman Catholic Church in Ukraine played a vital role in preserving Polish national identity under the oppressive conditions of the Russian Empire. Historical records note that around the mid-June period of 1915 to 16, the clergy of the Lutsk-Zhytomyr diocese were actively organizing aid for refugees and wounded soldiers. Despite the Russian government's so-called secret circulars that allowed for the closure of Catholic churches and the suppression of the faith, the church remained the primary social infrastructure for the Polish minority. The activities of the priests during this time, collecting funds and running shelters,
were not just humanitarian, but political, as the church fought to prevent the forced conversion of its members to Orthodoxy, maintaining its cultural jurisdiction in a volatile war zone.
Throughout the Synod discussions several weeks, mid-June serves as a historical touchpoint for the Special Assembly for Africa of the Synod of Bishops, initiated by John Paul II. Gathering around the tomb of Peter, the Synod Fathers proclaimed their faith, framing the African continent as a place of hope and resurrection. This assembly was a historic attempt by the Church to address the challenges of a rapidly changing continent, from poverty to conflict. The Synod sought to affirm the Church's role in Africa, moving beyond a European-centric missionary model toward a communion of churches. It represented a major evolution in how the Vatican viewed its global mission, focusing on local leadership and the signs of the times in Africa.
The erection of the Diocese of Quebec in 1674, under the guidance of François de Laval, established the permanent framework for the Church in North America. Throughout the summer months, including June, Jesuit missionaries like Joseph Pierre Bonnecamp would travel the interior, often marking territory with lead plates to renew France's claim to the Ohio watershed. These mid-year expeditions were essential for the Church to stake its presence in the New World. The work of these missionaries, while tied to French imperial interests, established the first Catholic parishes and mass centers in what would become the Midwestern United States, grounding the faith in a wilderness that was otherwise hostile to institutional Christianity. Following the mandates of the Second Vatican Council, the Church has engaged in a long-term process of repentance and reconciliation regarding its historical treatment of Jewish people. While anniversaries like June 18th are often used for prayerful reflection, the broader context of the late 20th century involved John Paul II leading acts of atonement, including a famous prayer at the Western Wall. This shift in doctrine, moving from supersessionism to a theology of shared covenant, was a turning point in church history. The commitment to recognize the sins of yesterday's Christians fundamentally altered the Church's liturgical and pastoral approach, marking a move toward dialogue rather than proselytization. By mid-1929, the long-term conflict of the Cristero War, which had gripped Mexico since 1926, reached the final stages of the arreglos, peace arrangements. The negotiations, facilitated by figures like the American ambassador Dwight Morrow, sought a modus vivendi to allow the resumption of religious services. The process was agonizingly slow, and mid-June 1929 represented the final cooling-off period before public worship could be legally restored. This event was a landmark in church-state relations, as the Church had to navigate how to operate under a government that still held anti-clerical constitutional views. It remains a classic study in how the Church maintains its spiritual mission when its institutional and legal rights are severely curtailed by hostile revolutionary regimes.
Thank you so much for watching. If you learned something new today, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into history. Let us know in the comments, which of these 9 events surprised you the most? We love hearing your thoughts.